This is Long Shots, VSiN's premier golf betting podcast. Here's Matt Brown, Wes Reynolds, and Kelley Bydlon.
Hey, everybody, it is Long Shots here, presented by VSiN. Matt Brown, Kelley Bydlon, Wes Reynolds coming to you. The first one here of 2025, I guess, depending on when you see that. It could be 2024. Doing it
2025. We're already jumping ahead, man. It's 2025. We're jumping.
We're technically doing this in 2024. But you might be listening to this.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everyone. We're obviously recording this on New Year's Eve. We have no plans. What losers we are. But it's, it is what it is. This is what we did for you guys. Not only are we recording a podcast here for this golf tournament that only has 60 players and is a no-cut event, but we did it on New Year's Eve, and we added a video element to the people on YouTube. This is what we look like. So thanks for that. By the way, absolutely free here on the YouTube channel. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below. Do appreciate the support here in growing the VSiN channel. And of course, if you're just listening to us on the audio side, subscribe, rate, review, all of that good stuff that we talk about each and every time. Boys, took a little bit of time off. It was much needed for me. I refreshed my urge to dig back into the golf numbers and everything, Wes. So I feel pretty good as we head into 2025.
Yeah, I didn't do anything for December. The RSM was my last event of the year, and I just didn't feel like doing some of the international events. Felt like long season, needed to recharge as well, and determine how we're going to approach 2025. It makes it a little bit easier when the guy that beats us every damn week isn't in the field.
Yes.
much like this week with Scottie Scheffler. By the way, tentatively expected back for the American Express in about 3 weeks with the glass shards, I guess, that had to be removed from his hand for surgery. So the world number one, the player of the year, the FedEx Cup champion will not be in this field this week. So at least we don't have to lose to him in week number one and be like, okay, this is how this year's just going to go all over again.
Yeah, I'm okay with it as well for this first one. Kelley, you and I went out, a little humble brag here. You and I went out and saw Scottie and Rory and Bryson and Brooks up close. And, listen, everything that you watch on TV, it's just more impressive whenever you watch them do it right in front of your face. I mean, these dudes, it's unbelievable how awesome these guys are at golf. And you know what? He can say what he wants to. Me and you are going to go out on a limb that him and Rory had a rager after that event, and that's why he's actually missing.
Yes.
I was just going to say, we talk about these guys being superhuman. Matt, you and I got to see them human up close because they were freezing out here playing in Vegas as soon as the sun went down.
Bryson DeChambeau, by the way, had the George Costanza Gore-Tex coat. If you remember that from Seinfeld, I mean, he was freezing out there. It felt like it was like 10 degrees based on how he was dressed.
Wes, I posted a video on Twitter. I'm pretty sure, I'm just going to say, Matt, it was the first hole he put it on, but I'm literally snickering in the background of this video when he puts on this jacket. I'm like, he looks so ridiculous. And then 20 minutes later, the sun completely goes down, and Matt and I are like, we're freezing. Like, we're absolutely freezing. Like, get us another drink already.
It was, so Kelley, to pull back the curtain here, and then we'll get into the preview here. Kelley started with short sleeves on. Yeah. And by the time the sun went down, and then 45 minutes after that, Kelley had on three layers deep. Yeah, whatever. That's how the weather changed out there for that thing. It was cool. It was fun to go see.
It was
up close and personal, and glad to be back here as we get going on the regular season of golf. Guys, as you know, this is how we are going to break this down, where we give you our thoughts on the course. We give you our thoughts on what we put into the models this week, what the models spit out, if you want to do the modeling yourself, or if you just want to go strictly off of what we do. Disclaimer, as always, we are not coders. We didn't make these models. We are using someone else's hard work, but we are putting in the data for the information that we think is the most important each and every week for all of these tournaments as we go in.
Yep.
Some courses we favor longer hitters. Some courses we favor guys that are, really good with wedges. Some courses we're going to favor guys that are somewhere in between. All of that stuff is stuff that we'll be putting into these models, and we'll explain that to you each and every week here on Long Shot. So we'll kick things off, Wes, like we always do, kind of a little breakdown of this tournament. It is the Sentry over at the Plantation Course at Kapalua Resort in Maui. I said it at the top, 60-player, no cut field here for everybody. What are we looking at from a course standpoint?
Yeah, and you mentioned now 60 players. This used to be a lot less because they used to have just the PGA Tour event winners in this field. But as of last year, they extended it to the top 50 in the FedEx Cup point standing, so that's why you have 60 players here at Kapalua on the island of Maui. Designed in 1991, this is the Plantation course, by the way, at Kapalua Resort. Bill Coore and Ben Crenshaw designed this, as they did with Pinehurst No. 2, Trinity Forest. Really not a lot of water on this course, despite the fact that it's on the island. It's more about the mountains, the West Maui Mountains here. So it is a par 73, by the way, so it's unique in that aspect. 36-37 split, only 3 par 3s on this course. Measures just under 7,600, 75.96 to be exact, as on the scorecard. Played as the easiest course on the PGA Tour last year. 29 under was the winning score from Chris Kirk. So 11 par 4s, 8 of them are 425 or less. A lot of elevation here, so you do get some uneven lies and some blind shots into the pin, but the ball is going to carry a little bit more than usual. Wide fairways. Some of the widest you will see on the PGA Tour. I think it's the second widest fairways of all the regular course rotations. And then very big Bermuda greens, 8,700 square feet on average, slow on the stimp, 10.5, so they run pretty true. A lot of bunkers here, no water holes on this layout. So really the only defend for this course is the wind, the elevation changes, and perhaps, some of those uneven lies I was mentioning because of the elevation. But if the wind doesn't blow, they take this place apart. Like in 2020, if you look at the recent history in the winners, Justin Thomas was only 14 under par, but the wind really blew that week. If it doesn't, you're looking at the last 4 years: 25 under Harris English, 34 under Cameron Smith, 27 under John Rahm, 29 under Chris Kirk. 27 under, I think, might get you on the first page of the leaderboard if there's no wind this week.
Kelly, you popped up the leaderboard there for a second here on the screen for our fancy dancy little video side of things. And so we take a look at the odds boards. Xander Schauffele is the best player in this field, so he is going to be the shortest odds. The only guy coming in currently at Justin Thomas taking some money, actually. So we do have two people at single digits actually here with Xander and Justin Thomas, Ludwig Aberg, Sungjae M. These are all like Hideki Matsuyama, Patrick Cantlay, Sam Burns, Sahith Theegala. These are all name brand guys in this. As Wes mentioned, it's either people that won or had really, really good years as it is. But we're looking, because of such a short field, you get Xander at 550, right? You get JT at 9-1, Collin at 10, and Cantlay at 16, as is Ludwig, 18 on Sungjae, as is Hideki, 25 or longer on Sam Burns and everybody else. But, Kelly, anything jump off the page of the odds, or just some overall observations as you were looking at the odds?
Yeah, Xander's short, like you said. I think that was, just as we take some time off and you kind of take a step away from handicapping golf week in and week out, and some of these guys we haven't seen in a while. Yeah, I think you go, wow, that's pretty dang short for Xander, but man, he was arguably the best golfer on tour last year, right there with Scottie Scheffler, those two at the top. So no Scheffler, no Rory McIlroy. I think those are completely fair odds. What are we at right now? I was going to say a 60-man field, but are we at 60? I guess I don't even know that.
I believe so. We're waiting on to see if Victor Hovland, by the way, is going to withdraw, as he had an injury while training.
A broken toe.
Yeah, fractured his pinky toe, and that's why you're seeing him, I think, 33-1, if I'm looking at some odds grids here at Bet365, which you might have in various jurisdictions across the country. That's the highest I've seen, but Vic may be a withdrawal from this thing. He also just parted with his swing coach, Joe Mayo. Yet again, he changes swing coaches, so maybe eventually Victor Hovland will figure that out. But as of now, as we record this on Tuesday, he has not yet withdrawn from the event.
Yeah, and just listening to a couple. So we're 60-ish. We'll leave it at that. The other one that, I think if you are playing any DFS out there, and Matt, I don't know if you caught on to this, but I think some of the pricing was kind of put up on this a little early before some of these guys had withdrawn. I think I had heard that DraftKings even left out Morikawa accidentally or something on their initial pricing. So if you are playing DFS, make sure you're really looking at those numbers, because I think they might be a little surprising to what you're getting. But yeah, I mean, to the betting odds, yes, I think the second most surprising thing, and then when you kind of reassess what the field looks like, and Talked about the injury, so I think Hovland being a little bit longer makes some sense here. Finau even being a little bit longer, himself allegedly, I guess, dealing with an injury or thinking about going to live. Who knows?
Right.
Just the beginning of the season, so we're finding all this out. But yeah, I mean, it's the JT. Wow, he's number 2, right? And it's we've seen him come into a bit of form here, and his putter will be put to the test this week. I think in an event that often comes down to who can putt the best.
Yeah, this is our kind of disclaimer here whenever we talk about these tournaments in which you're going to be getting mid-20s, high 20s as far as the winner goes. Every one of these guys in this field can destroy this course. And so that's why you see guys like a Chris Kirk, again, last year, who wins this tournament. It's also why you see, a guy like Cam Smith go 34 under or whatever it was that year, because this course, I actually talked to a buddy yesterday who played this course less than a year ago and was saying, like, look, it actually wasn't all that incredibly challenging for me, so I can only imagine what it's like for these pros out there. Is like, really the only thing is the stances are a little bit weird sometimes depending on where you land in the fairways and whatnot, but like outside of that, it wasn't even all that crazy for me. So yeah,
it's wide open. It is a wide open layout. Like, there is a little bit of rough, 2.5 inches, but it's not something that I think gives the pros trouble here.
I think
you can
like
spray
least
it.
penal rough on tour, I think is what I was saying when looking at that stuff. So yeah, it's I know we're going to get into it all here, but it's kind of frustrating to me a little bit, because this is every year I feel like I get reminded why I get excited to break down this tournament, because it's a different course. It is a different course and different factors than that we usually see week in and week out on the PGA Tour. It's just so often does come down to, okay, these are big greens. Yes, there might be set up in different quadrants, and you got to hit the right one, but it still so often comes down to a putting contest. It's a little bit of a shame, because I think it is an interesting layout with how it's designed. The par 73, you get one less par 3 than you're used to, and some really creative, I think, par 4s and par 5s with, Matt, like you talked about, one of the bigger challenges here are just kind of the undulations that you just even see in the fairways, with some of these guys having to hit just awkward stance lies and stuff like that. It's an interesting course, but we know guys are going to go low, and you got to factor that into your handicapping.
Yeah, a lot of wedges, a lot of putting. If anyone has any insight into anyone's pitch and putt games here lately, anyone played a par 3 with any of these guys recently? If so, let us know what that might look like. But getting into the model, guys, for me, we talk every week. Sure, we'll have some element of approach. So, I mean, we'll say it for you guys out there, but honestly, it's going to be in every model. It just depends on how much you want to put it in your model each and every week. But I kind of went overboard on scoring. I don't know how y'all went about it, but I like birdie or better gain, birdie or better percentage, opportunities gained, like basically stuff like that. Dudes that can go low, how they do on easy courses, and then a little bit of driving distance. I know everyone's going to be able to pound it here, but certainly there are some holes in which, like, with the elevation change, with the way the wind typically blows, you can get 400-yard drives here and things like that. So a little bit of driving distance, and then just those kind of wedge distances, 75 to 100, 100 to 25. And like I said, I have gotten away at least a little bit last year from the buckets, but I think with this one, because it is specialized, with it being such a wedge-heavy kind of like course like that I did go ahead and throw the short wedge stuff in there, because there are dudes that do really excel at the short wedge stuff on a week in, week out basis, and don't necessarily have to get hot with it. We can see guys get hot with their irons, but like that specialty, that 75, I mean, or struggle with it, right? I mean, remember at the beginning of last season, guys, Rory couldn't hit one from 125 within 30 feet of the cup. Like, he really, really struggled from that distance. So I did throw that one in there. Wes, anything you did that kind of stands out with how you modeled this week?
Yeah, similar approach, I guess, for me. I did birdie or better percentage. You can also go, if you want to go opportunities, you can. You can also maybe look at strokes gained on easy courses, because the average the last 4 years has been about 29 under par. So I think you got to go a little bit heavier on scoring this week. I used a little bit of an approach just for the base, but the buckets I used were the 50 to 125 because this can be a wedge fest, or you're going to get really long irons into the green, which means 200 or more yards, because you've got some long par fours here. You got a couple 500-yarders with the par fours, and then you obviously have the 4 par fives as well, which are pretty long. So 7,600-yard course, you're going to have, even if you rip it off the tee, and I use distance as well, by the way, you're going to have some long, 200-plus yards irons into the greens. Strokes gained par 5. Gotta birdie all these things pretty much all 4 days, if you even want to stay somewhat in the mix. I think here you can't make pars on par 5s. Certainly can't do what Collin Morikawa did, certainly when I had him 2 years ago, where he had a 7-shot lead at one point in the final round, and Jon Rahm, I believe, shot 10 under par and caught him and easily ended up defeating him because Morikawa melted down on the back 9. Maybe more on him later. In terms of putting,
right, Wes, are we going to come out of the gates on tilt already? First tournament of the year, we're
probably
on tilt. Yeah.
Probably so, but sometimes you got to embrace the pain.
That's right.
Just to continue, Bermuda putting. I think these are big and slow greens, and they're 100% celebration Bermuda. So looked at Bermuda putters for context. 3-putt avoidance, I think you could look at a little bit this week because these greens are so big.
Yes.
So 8,700 square feet. So you're going to have sometimes where you hit a good shot, but it's 40-some feet away. Especially on these par 5s, and how your lag putting is going to be very, very important. Like I mentioned, driving distance, wide fairways, non-penal rough, you can attack off the tee here.
Yeah, it's as far you guys pretty much hit on everything. I definitely did look. I weighted those proximity buckets a little bit more than I have in years past. I think really looking into this a bit more, really just seeing it's a lot of wedges and a lot of long irons, and that's what a lot of these guys are going to be contending with. I dialed back, honestly, what I had factored in years past off the tee. A little bit of distance for me, but I think you're really talking more. As long as you're not one of the shortest hitters out there, I think you're okay, because it's going to, like you talked about, Wes, really demand some long irons from almost everybody at different points, and that's where I really chose to focus a little bit more. Like you guys brought up, birdie or better for me, opportunities gain, all the scoring stuff, par 5s, got to look at that with the 4 out there. And, I think, biggest things here for me, outside of those proximity buckets, were probably the on the green stuff. It is the 3-putt avoidance. I think that's really important to factor in with any course when you're looking at big greens. And then, putting on Bermuda, right? We often do see, probably of any grass type, right? That be the little bit most sticky with what guys do well on, carrying over. So that is something that I factored in pretty heavily. And then, look, I think course history is interesting here as well. I don't know how important you guys think that is this week. We've seen plenty of first-time winners here, so I'm not going to say it can't be done. But, man, with some of these guys at the top of the board and what they've done here in years past, it's pretty incredible how consistent some of these guys have been. And, like you said, Matt, we're going to be able to show off a couple different things and a couple other people's websites as well. And Fantasy National, one of those too, if I can do it. Probably not, I guess. Just, looking at what Morikawa's done, what Xander's done, what JT's done here. It's year in and year out from these guys that are at the top. So it's no shocker that they're at the top of the board. And I think something you got to be at least aware of.
Yeah, it is. It is a course, though. Again, like we said, this is scoreable by any of these guys in this field, right? And I think that might play at some point into maybe some of the bets that I have in. I don't know about you guys, but definitely some of the ones that I ended up putting in, because I'm like, hey, listen, there are some dudes here that I think probably the odds are a little bit too long for my liking when it comes down to it. Betting this tournament, though, I will say from a strategy standpoint, guys, I only did a couple, like three outrights. I did one kind of top 20 of a dude that I think is maybe a little bit undervalued there, but I think it also is important to talk about the variance in a tournament like this, where it is a birdie fest, and if someone does run super hot with the putter, they can run away with this thing. I mean, as we saw, as Wes just mentioned, we saw Collin Morikawa get run down, but that was because Jon Rahm, went just nuclear, right, in that round. And so any of these dudes can just go crazy. So the variance is pretty high as well. So I'm not going crazy here in this one. I don't know what y'all did from a strategy standpoint, but first tournament of the year, I don't want to come out just guns a-blazing, personal foul. All right, sorry. That's unsportsmanlike conduct on my part, but it's okay. Hopefully y'all are cool with that here on the video stream. But yeah, I'm not going nuts
Fire the
here.
cannon, Tampa Bay. Don't worry.
Yeah. I'm not going nuts on this one because I think that there is, from a betting standpoint, it is not like the greatest betting event.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, look, I think this is beginning of the year. We're especially with how we handicap golf, almost all three of us, and how important we think the stats are week to week. You got to let some data build up on the season really before I think you start firing a little bit more. So yeah, definitely lighter approach. Smaller field. It's 3 outrights for me so far. 1 top 10. That's about it. I think just overall on the odds board, I thought it was kind of interesting because I think there's, with some of those guys like we talked about already, Hovland, Finau, some injury questions. I think there's a lot of value at the top of the board, which is a little scary for an opening event of the season like this, but I do think there's a lot of win equity right there at the top of the board. But then I kind of gravitated a little bit further down because I think when you are talking 60 guys, like you said, Matt, anybody can go out here on this course and tear it up. I think I was looking kind of longer shots or kind of top of the board, and that's kind of where my betting went to.
And, Wes, I think it's also important to point out here, too, at the beginning of the year, this is also when guys are still in tinker mode a little bit, right? I know I'm watching a bunch of these accounts that I follow. Tons of dudes are trying out the new drivers and all the new clubs that have hit the market and whatnot. Max Homa got spotted. Max Homa is now a completely different club manufacturer. He's now sponsored by Cobra, so he is making the move over to a completely different brand of clubs that he's been using and all of that. And so while they're pro golfers and they're awesome at this and like whatever, there are still some dudes that are probably out there messing with things just a little bit because they want to put it to the test in real action atmosphere. But who knows? A month from now, some of these clubs might be out of their bags. Some of the balls might have, all the different things that they kind of are doing here early on to see where they really want to be, a month or two from now.
Yeah, exactly. Look, these are serious events, and you obviously want to win if you're taking the time to come out and tee it up and play. But this is about, I think, getting ready and peaking in March, peaking in April, peaking for the players, peaking for the Masters. Certainly these elevated events, these signature events, Pebble Beach and all the usual suspects that you get on the West Coast swing and then into Florida come March are important, but it's all about peaking here. But when I look at this, and I know some of the trends I included in my piece at VSiN.com might be a little bit outdated because this used to be just the PGA Tour winners. So it's not surprising that 13 of the last 15 were in the top 30 or better in the official world golf rankings. You're usually getting elite players or players of some stature that have won here. Just going briefly through the list of recent winners: Kirk, Rahm, Cam Smith, Harris English, Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele, DJ, Justin Thomas again, Jordan Spieth, Patrick Reed, Zach Johnson, DJ again, Stricker. That's going all the way back to like 2012. Those are all proven players, most of them being major champions, by the way. So, it is very rare that you get a long shot. Actually, Chris Kirk really was the only one in recent years, depending on how high you designate a long shot. But 125-1 he won here last year. But everybody else kind of in this teens or in the 25-1 range, I think is when I had Smith here in 2022. And I've hit this event a couple times. I usually don't get the winner out of this event. Usually you're going to have at least somebody close because it's such a small field. But, that's why, when you're looking at some of these long shots, you kind of want to look at guys maybe that have played here before, because there are a couple that really attracted me that I didn't end up playing just because, they haven't really played this layout. Maybe if the wind blows, they're not going to be familiar with it. But there's a lot of guys that are going to go very, very low this weekend.
All right, Kelley Bydlon, let's go ahead and get into it. The reason the people are tuning in here, let's get into our picks for the very first tournament of 2025.
Well, might have given it away already, but first outright on the board in top 10, right back to Collin Morikawa, Wes. Let's go, baby. The best player on tour without a win last year. I'm going right back to him. It's so hard to deny what he's done at this course. You're talking about T5 last year, second place 2023, T5 2022, T7 the 2 years before that. He is consistently in that top 10. You're finding a top 10 price on him about minus 110. Most places in the market here in Vegas, plus 125 over at Circa. That was a no-brainer for me, but I like it at minus 110. I like the top 10 play on him. Shop around 11 to 1. I saw a 12 to 1 boost over at Caesars on him for an outright price. Westgate and Circa here in Las Vegas also hanging 12 to 1 on Morikawa. I'll let the JT steam go away, and I'll take Morikawa drifting a little bit back to 12. I like him, but again, I think there is a lot of win equity at the top when we're talking Xander, JT, Morikawa, Cantlay. I think any of those guys, they get hot this week. It's going to be tough to beat them. But started with Morikawa, and look, everything that I kind of fudged numbers a little bit more this year with those proximity buckets. Okay, everything just screams more and more Morikawa when you're looking at it that way. And I'm de-emphasizing things like driving distance a little bit more. All of that points in Morikawa's direction. Next guy for me, I got two more outrights. Next guy for me is a guy who has been very active in the fall. We saw him play well on the PGA Tour this season, getting a win. And playing well throughout Europe. I'm wondering if you made either of your guys' cards. That is Bobby Mack, not a guy that we have seen at this course before. I believe this is his first time debut at this course. But look, I think I'm not really too worried about that. What he's been doing with his game consistently, and especially in the short-term period, which we don't usually feels like we come into this tournament and you're looking at guys that haven't played in several months. He's played a fair amount over the past few months and playing quality golf. So Robert McIntyre, 35 to 1 outright play for me. And then Adam Scott, a guy I played a lot of last summer. Boys, I'm going to bring up the old model because these are the things, if you're watching at home, we can do now. And I did lean heavily on rickrungood.com this week to go through these. And number one at the top, Adam Scott in the model. Just couldn't ignore some of the numbers that he's had with his irons, what he's done around the greens. Really good play from him. Look, am I going to need a spike putting week? Yeah, I'm going to need a spike putting week from him. But Adam
you're going to need that from anybody, right?
You're going to need that from anybody. So 40 to 1, Adam Scott. Again, kind of like to the shorter shot with Morikawa. Couple long shots with Bobby Mack and Adam Scott. And that was my whole card this week.
I giggle because I said that I feel like there was somebody that was a little undervalued here in this one. I didn't go outright on Adam Scott, but he is the lone top 20 play that I have on the card for me this week. He was second in my model, Kelley. Second for me.
Nice.
And so you can find plus money on him, top 20. Remember, there's only 60 players, so we're asking him to finish in the top third of the field and still getting plus money here on Adam Scott. So just kind of a jumping ahead here for that. Yeah, I have Adam Scott plus 105 in a top 20 in my account as we speak. Wes, what made your card?
Yeah, and I didn't really go deep yet in the placement markets and probably won't with such small players. Might play a couple head-to-heads this week. I didn't do as many matchups last year, but may do a couple this week. But from an outright, went for deep here. Collin Morikawa, 12 to 1, who's done everything but win here. He has never finished outside the top 7, by the way, at this event. We know that there's the familial connection. His grandparents owned a restaurant in Maui and, did fundraiser for the wildfires last year and whatnot. But I think Morikawa, look, he wants this one. I think that this is special to him. It's the first event of the year. He did not win in 2024, so would expect for him to go well as he always does in Hawaii. We'll see if he can finish the job that he could not do, unfortunately, 2 years ago. So
we're getting our money back this year.
Yes.
Me, and Collin. We're all getting our damn money back.
We're going to do it or die trying, I think, on this guy here. So Collin Morikawa, 12 to 1. He's about 10, 11. I think that's still fine to play. Sahith Theegala, who I think market average 25 or 28 to 1 right now. Sahith, by the way, was runner-up here to Chris Kirk last year. Sahith had 10 under, round of 63. Couldn't make the final birdie on 18, though, that short uphiller that would have sent him to the playoff with Chris Kirk. So came up short. Really creative around the course, especially around the greens. That's usually a recipe for success here at Kapalua. And then there's one player I usually play that does kind of play in November, December that maybe shows form. That's what led me to Cameron Smith, by the way, here 2 years ago, where he held off John Jon Rahm, 34 under to win. Rahm was 33 under and still couldn't win the golf tournament. So that shows you how great Cameron Smith was that week. And I'm going to maybe think that this guy is going to follow suit. Akshay Bhatia at 35-1. Ended 2024 actually pretty red hot. He was runner-up at the Dunlop Phoenix on the Japan Golf Tour. He was third with Jennifer Kupcho at the Grant Thornton, which is the pairs event that they do. That's the old Shark Shootout. And then was fourth at the Hero World Challenge down in the Bahamas, won by, you guessed it, Scottie Scheffler. Top 15 in both Hawaii events last season. He's also very creative, and I think he kind of is like Cameron Smith, where he can flourish on that wide-open layout, because we know Cameron Smith, can be a little wayward off the tee, and Akshay can be that as well, but so creative, can take a lot of different angles at the pins. So Akshay at 35-1. And then I was down to my last one. I kind of wanted to take a longer shot. I wanted a bigger price on Max Grazerman, who is about 40 to 45-1, because he popped in a lot of my model categories this week, but this would be his first time playing here. I felt I needed a little bit more on him. I was hoping to maybe get like 66 or something like that. So went with kind of one bomb this week, and that was just kind of a gut. Sepp Straka at 90-1. 12th year last year, was 6 on approach. The irons are really good. Started to play some solid golf down the stretch of the fall. So that might be the guy. Maybe that's the Chris Kirk this year, because there's always going to be one guy that finishes in that top 3 or top 5. The short guys, like you see more often than not, where they pretty much peppered the leaderboard. We saw Chris Kirk win here last year. We saw JT Poston was top 5. Brian Harmon was top 5. So there's going to be somebody kind of come out of the woodwork a little bit that contends. I think it might be Sepp Straka.
For me, I am 3 outrights. I said Adam Scott top 20 at plus 105. I will go in and let you guys know. So
can I guess Matt's outrights?
Wes Grazerman and Davis Thompson were the last 2 off of my card. I went with, so given it's early in the season, given I don't exactly know how these guys are playing and whatever, I kind of went with the model this week and just where these guys showed up in the model, and then the odds that were attached, and kind of how I formulated the card this week. I really wanted to play Justin Thomas. Thomas, like, very high in all of my models, but like the numbers just got beat to hell, and I just can't do it. So I hope he wins. I won't feel bad about missing out on him at 9-1. So, like, whatever. Actually 29-1 there, Kelley. Actually 29-1 there.
I considered it pretty heavily.
on Sam Burns. So he's 6th overall in the model. It's no surprise whenever you weight so heavily, like birdie or better percentage and birdie or better gain.
He was number 1 on the tour last year.
Yeah. Because he just scores with the very best of them. Now, he gives it back with the very, very best of them as well, but he just scores so incredibly well. And so he's going to rocket up models whenever you put as much emphasis on it as I did. And so, yeah, I mean, as Wes mentioned, I mean, he's number 1 in this field in birdie or better percentage. He's number 1 in this field in birdie or better gained. He is 8th overall in opportunities gained, all the different stuff. He's actually he's kind of like sneaky long off the tee too. He's 8th in this field in average drive distance over the last 36 rounds. So there's a lot to like about Sam Burns, other than the fact that usually about 1 round per tournament, he decides to forget how to play golf and looks like me out there. But, again, in a tournament where I'm emphasizing scoring so heavily, he ended up 6th overall. And again, you can find him 28, 29, 25 there at DraftKings, something like that. So that didn't add up. The next guy that was super high in the model that the odds didn't match was Taylor Pendrith. Taylor Pendrith, again, another dude where if you kind of go in, he makes a lot of birdies. And so he is going to kind of rocket up the charts there. Over
Bombs
the last 36.
It off the tee.
Bombs it off the tee. 4th in the model, 4th overall in this field in birdie or better percentage. 5th overall in birdie or better gained. 11th in opportunity gained. Like, there's a lot of stuff. He plays easy courses well. He's inside the top 10 in easy courses. So he's a dude that, of course, is with the stats that I emphasized, is going to finish pretty high. And look, I think the win equity for a guy like Pendrith is going to be higher at a tournament like this than most, because it is like, hey, he just needs to run hot. You can kind of see in his results, like over the course of his career, right? He's like inside the top 10 or gets cut, right? I mean, like, that's just, so he either has it or he doesn't. And so if he has it on a course where you can actually go out there and really nuke the course, then he might can find himself in play. And again, at a number like 55-1, I should be able to monetize it one way or another. In my third and final, Nick Dunlap, 75-ish, 80-ish to 1, something like that, 70-1 there over at DraftKings for Nick Dunlap. Another guy that if you go in and just emphasize on scoring, emphasize on wedge play, all the different things like that, he really is only outside of the top 10 in my model, mainly because of bogey avoidance, which I put in. And I did have a pretty high emphasis on bogey avoidance too, because honestly, if you're giving strokes back in a birdie fest, then you're not going to win it either. He's actually 44th out of 60, hashtag not good for him in this field in bogey avoidance. So certainly needs to kind of clean that up. But outside of that, just pretty stellar actually in all of the other categories. First overall in opportunities gained over the last 36 rounds in this field, a guy that has given himself chances to make birdies, and he actually capitalizes on those birdies more often than not. And so I do like Nick Dunlap a lot. Just need him to not get sloppy out there and give some of those strokes back that he is inevitably going to gain, because he is so good at giving himself birdie opportunities. So outright card for me: Sam Burns, Taylor Pendrith, Nick Dunlap, Adam Scott at plus 105 in the top 20 market. That's going to wrap it up for me. Wes, quick recap of your plays, please, sir.
Yeah, Collin Morikawa at 12-1. Sahith Theegala, I got at 29, 25-28, I think is fine. Akshay Bhatia, 35-1, and Sepp Straka at 90-1.
Kelley Bydlon.
Morikawa outright and top 10. McIntyre and Adam Scott outrights, 35 on McIntyre, 40 on Adam Scott for me. I did want to ask you guys about a couple guys real quick before we get out of here. How do you attack drifts on some of these guys? I'll go back to Max Homa. Max Homa, who had a horrible season last year, like you talked about, Matt. We haven't seen him in a while. Equipment change. Does a long number on a guy like that get you intrigued? I'm going to half answer that, Homa. I didn't really get too far down the road on. One guy that I got really close on because we know what he's done putting on these surfaces before is Matt Fitzpatrick. Another one who's had some gross numbers recently, but the putting is so good that, I was finding him. Circa has 75-1 up on Matt Fitzpatrick. And that is a long number on a guy that, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw either Fitzpatrick or Homa come back and look like the guys we saw a couple years ago, or even at earlier parts of last season. I don't know your guys' opinion. I just wanted to float a couple of those names by you before we got out.
No, I think it's I think it's okay to consider Homa just because of the way that the price has gone. But I'll put it this way: if I miss out on Max Homa at, it looks like the market high out there is 65-1, given that he is 55th out of 60 players in my model this week, and if I miss out on him at 65-1, then so be it. Like I'll root for him. Obviously, he's one of the cooler dudes on tour. Has won us a bunch of money, over the last several years. But again, there's literally only 5 guys below him in the model, right? Literally only 5 guys below him in my model. He is literally 35th or worst in every category that I have in here, except for 75 to 100 yards. He plays really good short wedge games. But outside of that, last year, which, because it's 36 rounds dating back to last season, was just absolutely atrocious. Just absolutely. So he's 50th in yours. Yeah. 55th in mine. If I miss out, I miss out. I'm okay with it. I hope he rallies. I hope he plays better. The odds won't catch up to him, at least for a few tournaments. So this is stuff that we've been able to take advantage of here on this podcast. And so, look, we'll monitor the way he looks in Puma gear and Cobra clubs, and we'll see if maybe he's a guy that we play in the next few weeks with that. What about you, Wes?
Yeah, I'll take Fitzpatrick here. I am looking at the market, and I do feel like there are players that are priced, I think, a lot lower that I would rank him above, like the Matt McNeelys or the Davis Thompsons or the Brian Harmons. I want to see how Fitz rebounds this year, even though he's been very good here in his 2 appearances, 14th and 7th. He might be a guy maybe you target at like a Pebble Beach. I think here in a couple weeks. So I tend to think that maybe there's going to be a rebound for Fitzpatrick because he's so analytical and he didn't really hit the ball very well last year. So I know he's worked on his swing. I know he tinkers with things, and I trust his thought process and just his overall process in general. So, there's going to be a guy that's going to kind of be sneaky that we forgot about that really struggled last year that ends up winning, I think, pretty early in the season. It might be Fitz, maybe as we get about a month into the season.
Yeah, I couldn't stop staring at these. I mean, you just see all that green when it comes to his putting, and that's still working for him. But oh my God, the ball striking and off the tee is just a disaster right now for him. So I ended up not doing anything. We haven't seen him, since October at this point. But wouldn't be any surprise. I would go with him. I think of all the guys we've discussed, I think another name, Aaron Rye, would be one that we really saw him heat up last summer and then cool off. But everything that we talked about outside of the putting. He should be a good fit for here. I think he's an interesting one, too, at longer numbers. Wouldn't be shocked if any of those guys we saw bounce back. And shout out to Rick Gaiman, Pat Mayo, sites that we use often. I'm showing off on our podcast here.
I will say the guy that is ranked highest in my model that I didn't even consider at all is Harry Hall. So if anybody is wanting to play someone for DFS purposes or something like that, he played the fall swing and did very well in the fall. I mean, if you go in starting in September, T18, T35, T9, T13, T14. So he found something in those easier tournaments in the fall swing against easier fields. And so does that carry over into something like this? I guess we shall see. But it's a big step up in competition, though, for Harry Hall from where he was. So that's why I didn't take the numbers seriously, because it's he played better, but he played better in much weaker fields, right? And so that's why I just kind of ignored it. But who knows? Maybe he's on a heater.
Yeah, I'm looking at mine right now. A couple of these guys dealing with injuries, right? Like Ludwig, I don't really know exactly what to think of right now. And Driver de-emphasized a little bit here. I'll tell you the guy. I mean, the guy that I didn't consider at all that would be top 10 in mine would be one Corey Connors. He did not get any consideration for me whatsoever, even though he did rate out pretty high. And Hideki, I've got to pump the brakes on my Hideki love a little bit. It's getting out of control, I think. And he's also right. Wes, of course, he's actually not played all that well historically for whatever reason. So yeah, no Decky yet for me this season.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, because he's a guy sometimes that plays in Japan in some of these fall events, Dunlop, Phoenix. Some of the Australians that have done well here sometimes play in the winter because they have that Australian PGA and a couple of those events. But yeah, Hideki, for as short as he is. Really, he was second, by the way, his last start out, Dunlop Phoenix, 7 weeks ago. But I think I only have him in the top 15 one time in the last 4 appearances here.
Yeah, that is it is 58th. Yeah, 58th, T21, T13, T41, the last 4 years in this course.
All right, boys, it's time for some predictions here before we let everybody go. Kelley, who wins the most tournaments in 2025? And you can. Here's the deal. Scottie might have a month and a half, everyone else might have a head start on him. So, I mean, you could take somebody else with them having maybe 3 or 4 tournaments a head start on Scottie Scheffler.
I'm going to need Scottie Scheffler's whole hand to fall off, I think, before I don't answer Scottie Scheffler. So I'm going to stick with Scheffler. But if we're going to go, we'll live in the imaginary world where he gets abducted by aliens. Then who has the most wins? Collin Morikawa gets it together this year, and the results finally come through. Trust the process. The great play was there last year. He'll get in the winner's circle.
What you think, Wes?
If it's the most tournaments, obviously Scottie, the clear-cut favorite for that. But if I'm including some DP World Tour events or some international events, because keep in mind this is a Ryder Cup year, so you're going to get a lot of these European players playing both PGA and DP World Tour schedules. So I am going to say Ludwig Åberg is going to win the most tournaments this year, because I think you're going to see him play a lot on both sides of the pond this year.
Y'all ready for this? And this is a total homer pick right here. Justin Thomas rebounds. He's figured it out. He understood what went wrong. Justin Thomas gets it going again. Justin Thomas wins 3 tournaments this year. He hasn't won since 2022. He's going to win 3 tournaments this year. There it is. There's my bold prediction on Justin Thomas.
And that's the most wins of anybody on tour?
Yeah, well, outside of Scottie. I mean, outside of Scottie.
Okay.
Yeah, and Scotty's going to win 9. I mean, like, whatever.
Yes.
Scotty's going to win one left-handed. Like, I mean, like, it's just like he's going to come out and just be like, hey, I decided to play left-handed this time, and like, whatever. Yeah, he's going to win one like that. So, of course, Scotty's going to have the most. But, yeah, I'm going to say Justin Thomas with 3 comes in second here in 2025. Guys, a reminder, if you're watching us over on YouTube, click that subscribe button down below. Not just, obviously, this golf content, but all of our content here on the VSiN YouTube channel. And if you're listening to us on the audio side of things, subscribe, rate, review. We do appreciate it. Everything we do, absolutely free here on this podcast. For Wes, for Kelley, I am Matt. Good luck on all your Sentry picks.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at 0 cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.